The small red light on Console 7 started blinking at 3:42 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Most of the night crew at the Global Deep Space Listening Post in Nevada had stepped out for a coffee break. Only Elaine Sutton remained, her eyes heavy with fatigue, as she monitored the otherwise quiet systems. At first, she ignored the light. False signals happened all the time, usually just cosmic background noise or a glitch in the aging equipment. But after 5 minutes of steady rhythmic blinking, Elaine's training kicked in. She straightened in her chair and tapped the screen to enhance the signal. "That's odd," she muttered, leaning closer to the display. The wavelength pattern didn't match anything in their database. It wasn't random noise or stellar interference. The signal repeated exactly every 77 seconds with the same peaks and valleys each time. Elaine reached for the phone and called her supervisor, Dr. Peter Wells. "Sir, I think you need to see this," she said when he answered with a sleepy voice. Within an hour, the listening post hummed with activity. Scientists and technicians huddled around monitors, their faces lit by the blue glow of screens. Dr. Wells called the director of NASA, who then informed the president. By sunrise, the news had spread to every major space agency in the world. "It's definitely artificial," said Dr. Gregory Palmer, the head of xenolinguistics, who flew in from Washington. He was a thin man with thick glasses and hands that never seemed to stop moving. "The question is, what does it mean?" For weeks, the best minds on Earth worked to decode the signal. They tried mathematical approaches, linguistic patterns, and even music theory. Nothing worked until Dr. Palmer had a breakthrough. "It's not just one message," he explained to the room full of scientists and government officials. "It's layered. The first layer is mathematical, universal constants that prove intelligence. The second layer contains images. Using a new algorithm, they extracted the visuals embedded in the signal." The room fell silent as the first grainy images appeared on the main screen. They showed humanoid beings with blue-tinted skin and large, expressive eyes. Behind them, cities burned. The images showed ships, massive, dark vessels hovering above the planets. "They're under attack," Elaine whispered. Though she wasn't a scientist, she had been allowed to stay involved due to her discovery of the signal. The next set of images confirmed her words. The blue-skinned beings were shown fleeing, hiding, dying. Their technology appeared advanced but was clearly no match for whatever force attacked them. "There's more," Dr. Palmer said, his voice shaking slightly. "Coordinates. They've sent us the exact location of their home system. It's Epsilon Eridani, just over 10 light-years away." The final part of the message seemed to be a countdown. "Based on our calculations," Dr. Palmer explained, "they've been sending this message for almost 9 years. The countdown indicates they have less than 1 Earth year before total extinction." The United Nations Security Council called an emergency meeting. For the first time in history, representatives from every nation gathered to discuss an extraterrestrial threat, not to Earth but to another species asking for help. "We can't just sit back and watch an entire civilization die," argued Olivia Russell, the American representative. "Not when they've reached out to us specifically." "But what can we do?" asked the Chinese delegate. "We barely have the technology to reach Mars. Epsilon Eridani is 10 light-years away." The debate raged for days. Scientists reminded the politicians that theoretical faster-than-light travel had been in development for years. The military pointed out that Earth had weapons that could be adapted for space warfare. Engineers insisted they could build what was needed, if they had unlimited resources and global cooperation. Public opinion was divided. Many feared that involving Earth in an alien war would bring destruction to humanity. Others felt a moral obligation to help. The decision came down to a passionate speech from Olivia Russell. "Throughout human history, we've judged ourselves by how we treat those in need," she said. "When someone calls for help, even across the stars, we have a choice. We can turn away, or we can show the universe what humanity truly stands for. I believe we must act not just for them but for what we wish to become." The vote passed. Earth would send help. What followed was the greatest unified effort in human history. The world's economies shifted to war production. Scientists shared previously secret research. The brightest minds gathered to solve the seemingly impossible problem of getting to Epsilon Eridani in time. Dr. Lucy Garcia, a physicist who had been working on theoretical faster-than-light travel for decades, finally had the resources to test her ideas. "The math works," she insisted when skeptics questioned her. "We've just never had the reason or the funding to build it before." Within 3 months, the first prototype FTL drive was tested. It worked, barely, but it worked. Ships designed for both space travel and combat began construction in orbiting facilities. Admiral Frank Bennett was pulled from retirement to lead the mission. At 58, he had the most experience commanding naval vessels and had written papers on theoretical space warfare. "I never thought I'd see this day," he confessed to Elaine Sutton, who had been assigned as his communications specialist due to her familiarity with the alien signal. "Humans united, reaching beyond our solar system, all to save beings we've never met. Do you think we can actually help them?" Elaine asked, as they watched the construction of the UES Defender through the viewport of the space station. "I don't know," Frank admitted, "but I know we have to try." The fleet grew to 12 ships, each with the best weapons Earth could design. They carried crews of the most qualified military personnel and scientists from all nations. Dr. Palmer joined as the chief communications officer, hoping to establish clearer contact with the aliens once they arrived. "We're calling them the Calidri," he told Elaine one day, based on symbols in their message that seemed to represent their name. 6 months after the signal was first detected, the fleet was ready. No one knew if the ships would hold together for the journey, or if the weapons would work against the advanced alien attackers. But as Admiral Bennett said in his address to the crews, "Throughout history, it's not always been the strongest who won, but the most determined." On a clear day in October, as billions watched on screens around the world, the fleet departed. Earth orbit. The FTL drives engaged, creating a bubble of distorted spacetime around each ship. To outside observers, the vessels seemed to stretch and then vanish. Inside, the crews felt only a slight vibration as the stars around them blurred. They were on their way to answer the call that had traveled across 10 light-years of space, a desperate plea from one intelligent species to another. As the fleet disappeared from Earth's sensors, Olivia Russell stood in the United Nations control room watching the empty space where the ships had been. "And now we wait," she said quietly. "And hope." Back on the UES Defender, Admiral Bennett settled into his command chair. "Set course for Epsilon Eridani," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The journey had begun. Humanity had answered the call from the stars. Now they would find out if they had the strength to make a difference. The first week aboard the UES Defender passed in a blur of activity. Admiral Frank Bennett established routines, assigned duties, and made sure everyone understood their role in humanity's first interstellar mission. The fleet of 12 ships maintained formation, their FTL drives humming perfectly as they traveled through the darkness of space. "Status report," Frank said each morning when he entered the bridge. "All systems nominal, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Carol Martinez, his second-in-command. She was young but steady, with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. "The fleet remains in tight formation. No issues to report." But on day 8, the problems began. Chief Engineer Samantha Reeves was in the engine room when the first alarm sounded. A short woman with strong hands and a stronger will, she had designed much of the ship's propulsion system herself. "Pressure's rising in FTL Core 3, called one of her team. Samantha rushed to the control panel and saw the warnings flashing red. "Cut power to that core now," she ordered. The FTL system had multiple cores for redundancy, but losing even one would slow their journey. As her team worked to stabilize the system, similar alarms rang throughout the fleet. On the UES Liberty, an oxygen recycler failed. The UES Courage reported structural integrity issues in their port hull. "It's the sustained FTL travel," Samantha explained when summoned to the bridge. Her face was smudged with grease, and she hadn't slept in 20 hours. "We built these ships in months instead of years. We're finding problems we never had time to discover in testing." Admiral Bennett's face remained calm, but his eyes showed concern. "Can you fix it?" Yes, Samantha said confidently. But I need to train the other ship's engineers. We need to share solutions across the fleet. For the next 2 weeks, Samantha worked around the clock. She held video conferences with the other ship's engineers, teaching them to make repairs and improvements while traveling at faster-than-light speeds. "We're building the airplane while flying it," became her catchphrase. Meanwhile, Dr. Gregory Palmer continued to study the alien message. In a small lab converted from a storage room, he hunched over screens and data readouts, trying to learn more about the Calidri and their attackers. "I've managed to extract more images from the signal," he told Admiral Bennett during a briefing. His thin fingers tapped the screen, bringing up new pictures. "The Calidri appear to be an ancient civilization. Look at their architecture. It's thousands of years more advanced than ours." The images showed beautiful cities with spiraling towers and bridges that seemed to float without support, but newer images showed these same cities burning, with massive ships hovering above. "And these are their attackers," Gregory said, pulling up different images. "They call themselves the Varathi, as far as I can translate. They appear to be reptilian. In nature, the Varathi ships were dark, angular, and bristling with weapons. The few images of the Varathi themselves showed tall, scaled beings with 4 arms and narrow, slit-pupiled eyes. "Any hint about why they're attacking the Calidri?" Frank asked. Gregory shook his head. "Not clearly. But there are references to resources, and something that translates roughly as the power source. Whatever it is, the Varathi want it badly enough to wipe out an entire species." As the fleet approached the halfway point of their journey, Lieutenant Alan Diaz began combat training. The crews practiced battle simulations in virtual reality chambers designed to mimic what they might face. "We have superior numbers," Alan explained during a strategy session. He was a compact man with steady hands and a tactical mind shaped by years of military service. "But the Varathi have superior technology. We need to be smarter, more creative, and more determined." The simulations were brutal. In early runs, the human fleet was destroyed within minutes. But Alan adjusted tactics, learned from each failure, and gradually developed strategies that gave them a fighting chance. "We have one advantage," he told his team. "They won't be expecting us. The Calidri signal traveled for years to reach Earth. The Varathi have no idea we're coming." By the second month of the journey, the crews had settled into a rhythm. The engineers kept the ships running, constantly making improvements. The tactical teams trained day and night. The scientists continued to study everything they knew about both alien species. Dr. Kelly Woodward, the fleet's diplomatic specialist, worked closely with Gregory to prepare for possible communication with both species. A tall woman with a calm voice and thoughtful manner, she had spent her career mediating international conflicts on Earth. "We need to understand their cultures," she insisted. "Even in war, understanding your enemy can be the difference between victory and defeat." While the military personnel focused on combat preparations, Kelly organized teams to study the alien languages, customs, and behaviors based on the limited information they had. "The Calidri appear to value harmony and beauty," she noted. "Their cities, their art, everything suggests a peaceful species that evolved without major predators." "Which might explain why they were so vulnerable to attack," Alan added grimly. "The Varathi are harder to understand," Kelly continued. "Their ships are utilitarian, designed purely for function. Their communication patterns suggest a hierarchical society with strict command structures." As they reached the 2-month mark, Admiral Bennett called his senior staff for a meeting. The journey was taking a toll on everyone. The constant repairs, the intensive training, the uncertainty of what they would find, it all added to the stress. "We're 2/3 of the way to Epsilon Eridani," he told them. "I want reports from all departments." Samantha went first. "The FTL drives are holding, but we're pushing them beyond their design limits. I've calculated we have enough fuel for the journey there and back, but only if we're conservative." Alan followed. "Combat readiness is at 85%. The crews have run over 200 simulations. We're as prepared as we can be without knowing exactly what we're facing." Gregory's report was less positive. "We've lost the signal from the Calidri. he said quietly. "It stopped 3 days ago. I've been trying to re-establish contact, but—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood what it might mean. It could be interference, Kelly suggested. Or perhaps they needed to go silent for security reasons. Frank nodded, but his expression was grim. "Let's proceed under the assumption that they're still fighting, still holding on. We continue as planned." That night, as the fleet pushed deeper into space, Elaine Sutton stood in the observation lounge. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the other ships, their running lights blinking in the darkness. "Do you think we're too late?" she asked when she noticed Admiral Bennett had joined her. "I don't know," he admitted. "But even if we are, we need to find out what happened. And if there are any Calidri left, we'll do whatever we can to help them." "And if we face the same fate they did?" Elaine asked softly. Frank watched the stars streaming past as the ship hurtled through space. "Then Earth will know we tried." That humanity stood up when called upon. As the third month began, the fleet made final preparations. They were nearly at their destination. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Battle stations were assigned. Emergency protocols were reviewed. In just a few more days, they would arrive at Epsilon Eridani. They would find out if their journey across the stars had been in time, or if they were already too late. The human war fleet pressed on, carrying with them the hopes of two worlds. "Exiting FTL in 5 minutes," announced Lieutenant Carol Martinez. Her voice was steady, but her fingers gripped the edge of her console tightly. Admiral Frank Bennett stood in the center of the UES Defender's bridge. Around him the crew worked, with quiet focus. Some made the sign of the cross. Others touched personal items for luck. Everyone understood what was at stake. "All ships, battle stations," Frank ordered. Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded as crews rushed to their positions. Elaine Sutton sat at the communication station, monitoring all channels. Dr. Gregory Palmer stood beside her, ready to translate any alien transmissions. 2 minutes to arrival, Carol said. Lieutenant Alan Diaz reported from Tactical. Weapons hot. Shields at maximum. 1 minute. Frank took a deep breath. For 3 months they had traveled, not knowing what they would find. Now, the moment had come. Exiting. FTL now. The stars stopped blurring around them. The view screen cleared, showing the Epsilon Eridani system, a yellow sun, slightly smaller than Earth's, with several planets orbiting it, and ships, dozens of them. Massive dark vessels that matched the images from the Calidri signal. Varathi warships detected, Alan reported, his voice tight. Counting. 28 large vessels and numerous smaller craft. "Where are the Calidri?" Frank asked. Elaine adjusted her instruments. "I'm detecting signals from the third planet. It appears to be their home world." The view screen shifted to show the planet. Once it might have been beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents. Now dark smoke clouds covered large areas. Even from orbit they could see the devastation. "The Varathi have spotted us," Alan warned. 6 ships are breaking formation heading our way. "Open a channel to all Varathi vessels," Frank ordered. Elaine worked her console. "Channel open, sir." Frank straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "This is Admiral Frank Bennett of the United Earth Fleet. We have received a distress call from the Calidri people. We are here to offer assistance and request that you cease hostilities immediately." For a long moment, there was silence. Then a harsh, clicking sound came over the speakers. The universal translator worked to process the alien language, humans, the Varathi commander responded. The voice was cold with strange pauses between words. "Your presence here is unexpected. This conflict does not concern your species. Depart immediately or be destroyed." "We can't do that," Frank replied. "The Calidri asked for our help, and we've come to provide it." "Then you will share their fate." The communication ended abruptly. On the tactical display, the 6 Varathi ships accelerated toward the human fleet. "They're powering weapons," Alan reported. Frank's voice remained calm. "Implement Battle Plan Delta. All ships, defensive formation." The 12 Earth ships moved with practiced precision, arranging themselves in a three-dimensional pattern designed to maximize their defensive capabilities. "Incoming fire!" Alan shouted. The first Varathi attack hit the outer shields of the UES Courage. The entire ship shuddered under the impact. "Return fire, all ships," Frank ordered. "Target their weapon systems. Earth's weapons launched. Missiles, energy beams, and specialized EMP devices designed to disrupt alien technology. Most were deflected by Varathi shields, but a few found their mark. One enemy ship reporting damage," Alan announced. "But their shields are much stronger than we anticipated." Another wave of Varathi fire hit the fleet. This time, the UES Liberty took heavy damage. "Liberty reports shield failure in sections 3 through 7, Elaine said. "They have casualties." Frank's jaw tightened. "Order Liberty to fall back. Defender and Valor will provide cover." As the battle intensified, Elaine detected a new signal. "Admiral, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's using the same frequency as the original Calidri distress call." "Put it through," Frank ordered. The speakers crackled, and a melodic voice spoke. The translator struggled at first, then cleared. "Human vessels. This is Defense Coordinator, Asira of the Calidri Resistance. Your arrival was unexpected. We had lost hope." Gregory leaned forward excitedly. "We received your signal. We came as quickly as we could." "Many believed no one would answer," Asira replied. "Most of our cities have fallen. We are holding our last stronghold beneath the northern mountains. The Varathi hunt the last of us." "We need to know more about their weaknesses," Frank said. "Our weapons are having limited effect. Their ships are vulnerable at the junction points between hull sections," Asira explained. "And their sensor arrays cannot detect specific frequencies we discovered. I am transmitting the data now." Gregory and Alan worked quickly to incorporate the new information. "Recalibrating weapons," Alan announced. New targeting solutions uploaded to the fleet. The battle shifted. The human ships adjusted their tactics, focusing fire on the weak points Asira had identified. 2 Varathi vessels suffered critical damage and drifted away from the fighting. But the Varathi adapted quickly. Their remaining ships concentrated fire on the UES Defender, recognizing it as the command vessel. "Port shields failing," Carroll reported as the ship rocked from a direct hit. "Hull breach on deck 5. "Seal all bulkheads," Frank ordered. "Rotate to present starboard shields." As the Defender turned, the UES Valor moved to protect it, taking heavy fire in the process. Valor's captain, Commander Joe Harris, appeared on the communication screen. "We'll give you cover, Admiral," he said. Smoke filled the bridge behind him. "Get those civilians to safety." Before Frank could respond, a massive explosion tore through Valor's engineering section. The communication cut off. "Valor is lost," Elaine reported, her voice breaking. "I'm reading escape pods launching." Frank had no time to mourn. "All ships, protect those escape pods, and prepare for atmospheric entry. We're going down to the surface." "Sir?" Carroll questioned. "We can't win this battle in space," Frank explained. "We need to evacuate as many Calidri as possible and get them to safety." As the fleet regrouped, more Varathi ships approached from the planet. The situation was growing dire. "Dr. Woodward," Frank called to Kelly, who had been monitoring the battle from a science station. "Make contact with Asira. Tell her we're coming down. We need landing coordinates and safe approach vectors." While Kelly established communication with the Calidri Resistance, Samantha Reeves worked frantically in engineering to keep the damaged systems functioning. "We're not designed for atmospheric entry after taking this kind of damage," she warned, over the comm. "But I'll make it work somehow." 3 human ships were destroyed in the next wave of fighting. The remaining vessels formed a tight formation and dove toward the planet's atmosphere, using its magnetic field to help shield them from Varathi weapons. As they descended, they got their first close look at the Calidri world. Once beautiful, cities lay in ruins, forests burned, great lakes were blackened with ash. "There," Kelly pointed to a mountain range on the northern continent. "The resistance base is hidden in those caves. They're sending guides to meet us." The ships landed in a valley, protected by steep cliffs on 3 sides. As their hatches opened, The Earth crews saw the Calidri in person for the first time. They were tall and slender, with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their large eyes held wisdom and sorrow. They approached cautiously, led by a Calidri wearing elaborate armor. "I am Asira," she said, her translator converting her melodic language. "You truly came, from so far away, for strangers." Frank stepped forward and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "When someone calls for help, we answer. That's what humans do." Asira tilted her head, then carefully touched her palm to Frank's. "The Vorathi will send ground forces soon. We have little time." "Then we'll make the most of it," Frank replied. "We've come to help you fight, and if necessary, to help your people escape." As the Calidri and humans began to work together, Vorathi ships appeared in the sky above. The battle for the Calidri homeworld had only just begun. Alien SOS reached humans. They sent a war fleet Part 4. Humanity's stand night fell quickly on the Calidri homeworld. Under the cover of darkness, humans and Calidri worked together, preparing defenses around the valley where the Earthships had landed. Inside the mountain caves, Admiral Frank Bennett met with the Calidri leadership. Asira led him to a chamber lit by glowing blue crystals. Around a stone table sat the last leaders of a dying civilization. "This is the Council of Elders," Asira explained. "They are all that remains of our government." An elderly Calidri with silver markings on his face spoke. "I am Elder Cavan. We never imagined another species would come to our aid. Why risk your lives for strangers?" Frank considered his words carefully. "On Earth, we have a saying. The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats those who need help. When we heard your call, we couldn't ignore it." The elders exchanged glances, their large eyes reflecting the crystal light. "The Vorathi will attack at dawn," Cavan said. "They always do. Their biology makes them stronger in daylight." "Then we have until dawn to prepare," Frank replied. "I need to know everything about them. Fighting patterns, weapons, weaknesses." While the meeting continued, Lieutenant Alan Diaz organized the remaining human soldiers. They set up defensive positions using both Earth weapons and Calidri technology. "There, handheld weapons fire energy pulses," he explained to his team. "Our armor can withstand maybe 2 direct hits. Stay in cover and make every shot count." Dr. Kelly Woodward worked with Gregory Palmer in the Calidri archives, searching for information that might help them understand the Vorathi. "Look at this," Kelly said, pointing to ancient images. "The Vorathi and Calidri had contact centuries ago. It was peaceful then." Gregory studied the records. Something changed them. These newer records describe the Vorathi as aggressive, single-minded, almost like they became a different species. In the medical center, human doctors and Calidri healers treated the wounded from both species. Dr. Lisa Wilson, the fleet's chief medical officer, discovered something unusual while treating a Calidri child. "Their cellular structure is remarkable," she told Samantha Reeves, who had come to repair some medical equipment. "Their bodies contain trace elements I've never seen before, elements that seem to store energy." Samantha's eyes widened. "That might explain why the Vorathi are attacking. If the Calidri's biology contains rare energy sources, we need to tell the Admiral," Lisa said urgently. When dawn approached, Frank stood with Asira on a ridge overlooking the valley. In the distance they could see Vorathi ships landing. Ground forces were assembling, tall reptilian figures with 4 arms, carrying advanced weapons. "There are thousands of them," Frank said grimly. "And fewer than 600 of us," Asira replied. 400 Calidri and about 200 of your people." Frank's communicator beeped. It was Lisa and Samantha, explaining their discovery about the Calidri biology. "They're harvesting you," Frank said to Asira, horror in his voice. "That's why they won't stop. They're using your people as an energy source." Asira looked away. "We suspected as much. The Vorathi were once peaceful traders. Then their homeworld suffered an energy crisis. They became desperate, then violent. The first Rays of sunlight touched the valley. The Varathi began to move forward in precise formation. "All units, prepare for contact," Frank ordered through his communicator. "Remember your training. We hold this line." The battle began with a barrage of Varathi energy weapons. The human Kalidri defenses returned fire. The valley echoed with explosions and weapons fire. Despite being outnumbered, the defenders held their positions. Human tactics combined with Kalidri technology created an effective defense. When Varathi forces broke through in one sector, Alan Diaz led a counterattack that drove them back. But the Varathi kept coming. Wave after wave of them pressed forward, accepting heavy losses to gain ground. By midday, the defenders had been pushed back to the cave entrances. In the command center, Frank received bad news from all sectors. Ammunition was running low. The wounded overwhelmed the medical facilities. And Varathi reinforcements were arriving. "We need a new plan," he said to his officers. "We can't win by fighting this way." It was Gregory who offered a solution. "I've been studying the Varathi communications. They're being controlled by a central command ship in orbit. The soldiers on the ground are receiving constant instructions. If we could disrupt that communication," Frank began. "We might be able to do more than disrupt it," Kelly added. "The Kalidri archives show that the Varathi weren't always like this. Something changed them. What if they're being controlled? Somehow?" Lisa joined the conversation. "Like a parasite or virus that affects behavior? That would explain the biological changes I've observed in wounded Varathi prisoners." A plan began to form. They would need to reach the Varathi command ship, in orbit. But all their space-worthy vessels were damaged or destroyed. "Not all," Samantha said. "I've been working on repairing one of our shuttles. It won't win any battles, but it could reach orbit if we create a distraction." Frank made his decision. "I'll lead a small team to the command ship. The rest of you keep the Varathi occupied here." Isira stepped forward. "I will go with you. I know Varathi ship layouts. My people worked on their vessels before the war." As the defenders prepared for one final push to create a diversion, Frank selected his team. Elaine Sutton for communications, Gregory Palmer for his knowledge of Varathi language, and Samantha Reeves to handle any technical challenges. With Isira guiding them, they boarded the repaired shuttle. "Launch when the fighting is at its peak," Frank instructed Alan, who would lead the ground forces. "They'll be too busy to notice one small shuttle." The final battle began at sunset. The remaining human soldiers and Kalidri fighters launched a coordinated attack on Varathi positions. It was desperate and bold, exactly what was needed. As explosions lit the darkening sky, the shuttle lifted off. It climbed rapidly, slipping past Varathi patrols focused on the ground battle. "Approaching the command ship," Samantha reported. "Their shields are still up." "Can we get through?" Frank asked. "Not without being detected," she replied. Isira studied the Varathi vessel. "There's a maintenance port on the underside. It's small, but this shuttle might fit." With expert piloting, they maneuvered to the port. Samantha bypassed the security systems and they docked successfully. The team moved through the Varathi ship guided by Isira. They encountered few crew members. Most were busy coordinating the ground assault. "The command center should be ahead," Isira whispered. They entered a large chamber filled with strange technology. In the center stood a glowing container. Inside it, floating in liquid, was a creature unlike anything the humans had seen. A mass of tentacles and neural tissue. "What is that?" Elaine gasped. "The source of the control signals," Gregory said, checking his scanner. "It's broadcasting directly into the Varathi neural systems." "A parasite," Frank realized. "It's controlling the entire Varathi species." Samantha examined the container. "It's connected to their main systems. If we shut it down, the Varathi might be freed," Gregory finished. But before they could act, they were discovered. Varathi guards entered the chamber, weapons raised. Among them was a tall Varathi with elaborate armor, clearly a commander. "Humans," the commander hissed. "You continue to interfere where you don't belong." "We know what you're doing to your own people," Frank said, stepping forward. "That parasite is controlling you all." The commander hesitated, his slit-pupiled eyes showing confusion. There is no parasite. We serve willingly. Gregory whispered to Frank. His neural implant. It's flickering. The control isn't perfect. Frank addressed the commander directly. Look at that creature. Look at what it's doing to your people. The Varathi were once peaceful. You traded with the Kalidri. You weren't always killers. The commander's four hands trembled. Behind him, other Varathi showed signs of confusion. It was the opening they needed. Samantha lunged for the control console while Frank and Isira engaged the guards. Gregory worked frantically to broadcast a message to all Varathi ships, revealing the truth about the parasite. The command center erupted in chaos. Some Varathi fought to protect the parasite, while others, beginning to break free of its control, turned against their own kind. Samantha reached the main controls and disabled the parasite's life support system. The creature writhed in its container, its tentacles lashing out. It's working, Gregory called out. Varathi ships are standing down. The ground forces are stopping their attack. The Varathi commander stood motionless, staring at the dying parasite. What have we done? He whispered, memories returning. What have we become? As the parasite's influence faded, the Varathi across the planet and in orbit stopped fighting. Many collapsed as their minds, controlled for so long, suddenly became their own again. The war was over. In the days that followed, the Varathi, Kalidri, and humans worked together to understand what had happened. The parasite was a space-borne organism that had infected the Varathi leadership years ago, gradually taking control of their entire civilization and driving them to harvest the energy-rich Kalidri. 1 month later, Admiral Frank Bennett stood, with Isira and the Varathi commander, now known by his true name Varix, as they signed a peace treaty.